agencies to make sure, again, that our priority, beyond taking care of the victims and survivors of this horrible incident, that we get this man off the streets. So I think that you all of you have received this. I want to address also that there is a tactical incident that's occurring in the city of Torrance that is being covered. People have asked, is that your suspect? We don't know. As I said earlier today, we had a vehicle that was described as a white box van, I guess you'd say, a van of interest. And there's a van that looks just like what was described to us in the city of Torrance. It's a barricaded suspect situation. We are working with one of our partner agencies, the Torrance Police Department, to resolve that. We believe there is a person inside of that vehicle. We don't know their condition, but we're going to handle that in the safest manner that we possibly can to try and identify that person. Could it be our suspect? Possibly. But at this point, if we're doing our jobs correctly, we're not only looking at that situation or scenario, but we're making sure that we're looking at any and every possibility. So I do encourage our community, if they have any leads, maybe they saw the picture of this individual, to come forward with any information that they believe may help us in this very critical and important investigation. That's going to be very important. I also want to talk about the victim survivor side of this. In response to our mass shooting this morning, a victim resource center has been set up at the Langley Senior Citizen Center located at 400 West Emerson Avenue. And I want to make sure that the appropriate victims, families, friends take advantage of that resource. There are many people behind me. Some of them will speak, representatives from different agencies, and there's so many parts to this, right? The response, the medical side of it. But as we're looking for this suspect, we will not forget the victims and survivors. And it's important because you can just imagine the trauma that they've experienced, and it's our responsibility to wrap our arms around them. So representatives from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the District Attorney's Office, and the District Attorney, George Gascon, is standing here with us. The Red Cross, the Department of Health Victim Services are at the center to assist the victims, survivors, and their families. If anyone believes their relative may be a victim, please contact representatives at this Victims Resource Center that I'm talking about. And again, if you think that you have questions, you're upset, you haven't been able to locate a family member that you think's involved, please go out to this Victim Center and we will assist you. That's why we're there. At the center, we also have members from the Psychological Services Bureau, from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. And as we go hour by hour, if we see any other needs, there are multiple agencies that have contacted us. Everybody wants to help, which is amazing in this time, because we need to depend on each other in difficult circumstances like this. So with that, I am going to turn it over to the next speaker, and I'll be here for questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff Luna. And I also want to congratulate and actually give credit to the first responders, as well as our sheriff team and the city of Monterey Park, the chief of police, the many deputies, and as well as the DA's office, Mr. Gascon, and also to our elected officials that are here with us this morning representing the city of Monterey Park. I am, as you know, very heartbroken to hear of the news of what occurred with the individuals that lost their lives. But I think now we have to look at the victims, the survivors. And as the sheriff said, this is what the county does best. Help provide assistance, mental health services, any kind of relief that is possibly and legally conceivable for us to provide. We are here to support all of the families in this community and help them in their healing. It's tragic what happened, but let's also think about the people who put their lives out there on stake every single day as well to protect us, our safety, well-being, and also lives out there on stake every single day as well to protect us, our safety, well-being, and also our physicians, the ones that I can tell you of at LACUSC that are right now treating at least 4 of the other victims there. I also want to say that they have also devoted their service to help providing protections for all of our residents in our community. The county's Office of Emergency Management has also been providing support and leveraging mental health resources at this very traumatic time, along with the city of Monterey Park, which, as you know and you can see, are very united and very resilient. Again, a heartfelt note to the families who lost their loved ones and to those that are recovering at this time. And with the help of the public, we can help to identify the individual that was behind this incident. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This was supposed to be a moment, a time of celebration. We're celebrating Lunar New Year's, which is such an important component of many communities around LA. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to express my condolences not only to the victims' family, but the entire AIPI community. My office has multiple roles in this case. Number one, by state law, we ran a mass casualty response unit. And since very early this morning, we began to mobilize countywide resources in my office as well in order to provide service to the victim's family and to the community. And this is work that will not only, it began today, but quite frankly, will go on for months and possibly years. The impact of trauma from this event goes on for a very long time. I want to thank the Sheriff Department, Sheriff Luna, and the Monterey Park Police Department for the incredible work they have done. We've had also our own law enforcement component has been here since very early on, working first with the Monterey Police Department, and we will continue to do that with the sheriff and other partners. Clearly, depending on whether an individual is arrested, we will talk about prosecution at a later date, and that is appropriate. I also want to thank the U.S. Justice Department, our U.S. Attorney, who is here today with us. Again, this is a joint effort, and depending on what the conditions are, the Bureau of Investigation is also part of this work. But what I want to make sure that we get across to our entire community is that we are a united community. When one of us is attacked, we're all here together. And regardless of what the motive was for this horrendous impact, for this horrendous event, we will continue to work together. We're here with Monterey Park, with the San Gabriel Valley, with our entire community. And we're not only here today, we will be here every day until the work is done. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out right now. And I want to speak to the Monterey Park community directly. Our police department, our city continues to provide protective services throughout this incident. We work with our partners both on a county, a state, and a federal level and try to resolve the situation as best we can and take our suspect into custody. The sheriff talked about the Langley Center. That's where our victim assistance has been set up. I asked that the partners in the press give those victims' families a little bit of space over there so that they can get information. You can imagine when they woke up this morning after the Lunar New Year festivals from yesterday, and they may not have found their loved one next to them in the bed or at home, and how that's affecting everybody in this community right now. I want to ensure everybody that as we get more information, we'll put it out as much as we can. And the Monterey Park Police Department is here as your partner in the community to keep it safe. Any information that people may have related to the incident, they can call the police station. We will try to get information out as soon as we get it. I have a lot of uniformed police officers that are out on the street. Every single one of them is committed to the community. And if someone in the community has a question, has a concern, is scared, that officer's out there to make sure that they're okay. And all they have to do is reach out and ask the question. I'm going to open it up to any questions. Thank you.
Sheriff, can I ask you, you talked about, and again, I know that you're limited in what you can say for a number of reasons. You talked about the situation in Torrance right now, and you said that you don't, is the suspect in, you asked yourself rhetorically, you said it's possible. Is it also possible that a person who's in there, whether it's the suspect or not, is no longer alive? Is that a possibility?
Yes, it is a possibility.
Sheriff, are you aware of any, one just heard any gunshots that would make people think that was a possibility?
I don't have that information here in front of me, but that's also possible from, yes.
Sheriff, do you have a name because you released a picture, or are you withholding the name, and why is that?
We are withholding the name at this time. And as I stated earlier, it is a priority to apprehend this person. And we have a lot of resources. Continuously update you because the community, I understand, they're thirsty for information. And yes, we did put his picture out, and that's because from a public safety perspective, we want people to see who this is and then give us any information that they may have about his whereabouts. So that we can safely take him into custody.
Sure. Registered to the individual whose name you have?
It is very early, but do we know if this individual was working by himself and the motive of this situation?
No, we don't. And we have to keep all those options open. Was he by himself? Were there other suspects? Our detectives are looking at every angle. And that's the important thing that good investigators do, right? To keep every option on the table until we know for sure what the motive was, who else was involved, and providing the best case to either the district attorney or the U.S. Attorney's Office. Our job is to collect every shred of this awful puzzle that has been laid out by this suspect. So, work in progress.
You believe that this is a domestic violence situation, and that's what you behind this motive?
We've been asked that, and we're looking at every angle, whether it's domestic violence. The question was asked earlier about a hate crime. You have to leave the door open for any possibility until we understand who this suspect is, what his motives are, where he came from, what his intention was. At the end of the day, as a sheriff's department investigative unit, we are responsible for providing all the facts and evidence to our partners in the prosecutor's office so we can prosecute this individual to the full extent of the law.
Is the car in registered to the individual whose name you have?
I don't have that information right now in front of me. We should be able to follow up with you on that as this incident goes on.
Sheriff, would you be able to confirm at this point that the suspect in the second location was in fact the same one who perpetrated this mass shooting at here in Monterey Park?
We believe it is. I'm not confirming it 100% because, again, we still have to put this whole thing together. But the picture or the image that we're showing you is from the second location. And we believe that they are both connected. But again, we leave every option on the table. We have to leave it open because we don't want to focus on one area while someone else is getting away. So you got to be open to all of it.
How he was apprehended, I mean, for a while by the patrons at Lili Dance Hall. What kind of weapon was recovered from him? How did he get away?
Earlier today, in regards to the weapon, I could tell you that it's not a high-powered assault rifle. but I don't want to get into the specifics on the weapon. In time, we will. Everyone will get exactly what that is, but I don't want to say anything that will impact or create more challenges for us in trying to apprehend this person. I think.
Two more questions.
But you think only one weapon was involved in the deadly incident?
We don't know that yet. And for us, just like I'm saying that there may be one suspect, we think there's one, there may be more. We also have to assume there may be more than one weapon, right? We may have recovered one. When we find him, that doesn't mean he's not armed and dangerous.
Sheriff, finally, can you explain to us then, since the last briefing, what is new other than the photo?
Well,
I mean, the update, you got everyone here. I'm just trying to ascertain if there's anything new other than the photo.
we have the photo that's new. There's the incident that's occurring in Torrance where obviously there's a lot of questions and concerns about that. That's the update that we have.
There's nothing from that. You're not able to tell us anything from that. So I'm just asking if there's anything definitive that you can tell us.
I'm giving you definitive information now, and I'm giving you the information that we have. And I had a choice to sit back and not come out here and be available, or come out here like we talked about earlier. And every time we get even a shred of an update, to give you what we have, because there's significant public interest in this, as there should be. So if we call you out here in 2 hours, I'm hoping there's more information to provide, because I want this solved as much as anybody out there does. We want to, this has been painful. Let me go over here.
Can you confirm the name of the two locations where the shootings took place?
I don't have that information in front of me. Yeah, typically I don't put out the specific locations just out of respect for the business. I'm sure as the day goes on, we'll be putting down those specific names of the businesses, because as you can imagine, if you're the business owner there and you had this horrible incident, they're traumatized as well. So
One more question.
let me go over here.
What hospitals were the victims taken to?
You know, it is normal that when we have victims of violent crime, we don't talk about specific hospitals. And I'm going to share just a quick story as to why we don't. Earlier, it may have been mentioned that they were at a specific hospital, and somebody called one of those hospitals to say something along the lines that they want to go and finish the job. That is absolutely horrible. So again, I don't believe that's the information. Please, these victims and survivors are dealing with so much. Let's not traumatize them more. So yeah, and be patient with us. And our Sheriff's Information Bureau will put out another time where we're coming out. And I hope to have even better information. But as of right now, that's what we have. And again, thoughts and prayers to all the families involved in this. It's a horrible incident for our county. So thank you very much.
Yes, over there. In Spanish.
All right, you are listening live there. That was the latest news conference from Monterey Park with Sheriff Robert Luna, other speakers, including LA County Supervisor Hilda Solis and LA County District Attorney George Gascon, all speaking at the mic as we are gathering the very latest information on this deadly mass shooting that occurred late last night in the city of Monterey Park. Still, those numbers remain the same. You see on your screen, 10 killed and 10 injured in the mass shooting. And while that news conference was ongoing, on the right side of your screen, you still see it there. And now we have a ground image on the left side of the screen. Those images are both from the city of Torrance. So there's a lot at play here. What's happening at this location is you see the ground shot and the aerial shot is a vehicle that they believe could be the suspect from this mass shooting. Sheriff Luna, using very delicate wording, could be the suspect. They believe it's possible that it's him. So there's a lot at play to confirm that, but certainly they are taking it seriously that this vehicle matches the description. They have released the image of the suspect. They have not released his name. The sheriff did confirm that they have a name, but they did not want to put it out right now. We, of course, have the crew on the scene. That includes reporter Sophie Flay. Sophie has confirmed that we have the LA County Bomb Squad and Hazmat on scene as well as they investigate this vehicle before they move in any closer. And while that news conference was going on, we saw the LA County Sheriff Bearcat, that SWAT vehicle right there to the right of your screen on the bottom right, move alongside that white van to get a closer look. It was right against the vehicle.
Yeah, we were watching that as that press conference was going on. We also want to go back out to our ground reporter, eyewitness news reporter Sophie Flay with the latest. We just heard that press conference. And Sophie, what are you seeing out there from your vantage point this morning?
Okay, we'll put Sophie on standby. We're not hearing Sophie's mic.
Oh, there
okay,
it is.
Sophie, go ahead. We hear you now. You're good now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Mark, Irene, we are here in Torrance on Sepulveda Boulevard and Hawthorne Boulevard. Right behind me, as you can see, we can zoom in here, you can see that white cargo van sandwiched between two Bearcats, and like you said, another one kind of just moved in there. And we have just confirmed now that the bomb squad and hazmat team have moved in, and in that press conference, we learned that they're not sure if there are hazardous materials inside that cargo van, so they are taking all precautions, and everyone's here. I mean, Torrance Police, the SWAT team, LA County Sheriff, everyone coming together to handle the situation carefully and diligently, like they've mentioned. LA County Sheriff Robert Luna released photos, like you said, of the suspect not that long ago, and they are now just waiting here. As we mentioned before, it was impossible to get over here. So many streets blocked off, and so many community members have come out to kind of watch this scene unfold.
That Bearcat move through the area. It's on the move once again, and it has just been trying to survey that van. As you mentioned, we also saw the drone that was taking a look inside the windshield and around the vehicle. As you mentioned, Sophie, that they're erring on the side of caution because we don't know if there are any explosives inside or around that vehicle. So, Sophie, we appreciate your report this morning and giving us a good perspective of things on the ground there. And we do see this Bearcat being very active, getting very close to the driver's side of the van. We saw earlier that the window there was smashed, so it might have given them a clearer view of what's in the back of that van.
Yeah, that's a very interesting position that it's taken. In the moments prior to this, it was moving alongside of that van, but now kind of pointed right towards it. We have a reporter in Monterey Park, Leticia Juarez, on standby, but if we can hold, I think this image is worth staying on. Let's see, do we still have former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonnell? Is he still with us? He is the director of USC Safe Communities Institute. He's been providing really important insight and perspective as to what we're seeing on the ground this morning here in Torrance for this part of the investigation. Jim, are you there?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. Oh, are we here?
Yep. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm still on.
Okay, now this image that we're seeing, this Bearcat with the LA County Sheriff's Department, it's taken a different position, kind of pointing directly towards the driver's side window of that white van. You know how this process works. Tell us about what we're seeing, what could happen next. What does this all mean?
Yeah, they're using the Bearcat because they're in a position of advantage structurally that is as strong a foundation they could put themselves in a safe position that should something happen, should somebody open fire on the vehicle, they're relatively safe in that position. So as they move forward now, they're looking to see everything they can see. It's a panel van, so you don't have the ability to look in the rear windows or any side windows. So they're trying to get as much information as they can by basically hitting this thing from every angle they can, to include the drones. And so as they go forward, if they can, they'll also be in a position with hazmat and the bomb squad out there to be able to try and obtain readings should there be any hazardous materials there, to be able to, in the parts per million, figure out, do we have an elevated level of any substance, and that's very helpful then in deciding next steps. So there's a lot of science goes on now that a few years ago was not possible, but they have all of that, at their disposal. So our hopes is that this is a safe position for them to be in, and that they can, as quickly as appropriate, be able to bring some resolution to this and some closure to the people who are at this particular scene, at least.
And we'll stop you right there. You may be on a slight delay. SWAT officers have moved in to the vehicle. They are at the door preparing to make entry. They have broken the passenger side window. That window is now open. They are potentially opening the door. There's about more than a half dozen armed officers right at the door. Perhaps the side door will be the next to open. We now have the passenger side door open. Guns are drawn as they are moving in on this vehicle. You got to assume they believe this individual is incapacitated. The fact that they are going inside first. He's reaching over, the lead officer, to the driver's side. He has moved the seat, and potentially this sliding door here on the side is going to open next.
Yes, they have their guns drawn. As you mentioned, the Bearcat on the other side of the vehicle, making sure that they are safe from that angle as well. But we're waiting to see what the officers will do next. They've just broken the passenger window, opened that side of the van, about to open the side door. They are all in position. One officer has just gotten into the passenger seat and taking a look back there. It doesn't seem like they are on high alert.
I mean, the fact that he just went all the way inside the vehicle.
The body posture there, it seems like they are not seeing too much of a threat at this point in time, but they are, of course, still on guard. One of the officers still peering back there.
It's not a sliding door. The doors are opening.
Taking a look inside. And it's kind of hard to see from our view.
It looks like they're still looking even further back behind that door opening.
They're pulling something out, looks like a blanket of some sort.
And former Sheriff Jim McDonald still on the phone with us. We thank you for sticking with us here. I mean, we're watching, as everyone is, at these images. This was a barricade situation for well over 2 hours here in Torrance, the intersection of Hawthorne and Sepulveda, near the Del Amo Fashion Center. Now playing out live here on ABC 7 Eyewitness News, on air and online, abc7.com.
And the situation has been unfolding here in Torrance since roughly a little past 11 o'clock. So it's been almost a couple hours since we first saw this van swarmed by Bearcats and officers moving in. So they have been monitoring for the past couple hours to make sure that there were no threats to any officers. They had a drone circling this van for a while, checking for explosives possibly in and around the vehicle, for any movement inside the
It was really tense to watch that, not knowing what the if an individual was in fact located in that vehicle. They are continuing to but still, it's a tense moment nonetheless. She just never.
It's very difficult to see from our vantage.
Sorry, y'all, on swamp signals, sometimes it takes a few minutes.
And we may not know for a bit of time. And outraged and emotional over the shooting that happened last night.
Absolutely. Jim McDonnell joining us again. Again, he's been on the phone with us, director of USC Safe Communities Institute. You've seen the images now. I believe you were on a delay. But I'm sure you've seen the images now from Air 7 of those SWAT members going in.
One of the operators then, as you mentioned, took the initiative to go in and be able to open the rear panel doors so that others could go in. There was one of the operators there with a backpack indicating that he was likely the tactical paramedic on scene. And so if there was a need to render aid, medical aid, there was an ability to do that immediately. That does not appear to have been the case. And that person
was or is an individual in there, that person is deceased. We can't see a person deceased from our vantage point. There's a portion of the van with no windows inside the doors to the left that they were searching. It's unclear if there is a possible person suspect in that portion of the van. But the law enforcement officers, those SWAT members, they have, in most part, stepped away. There still are some to the driver's side door side, but those team members have stepped back from the van. They've gone through the initial search of the vehicle. So there certainly was not a live suspect in the vehicle. If there was someone in that vehicle, that suspect is passed away. The other option is that they did not find anyone. That would be a major concern.
We in our last press conference that we heard from them roughly about 45 minutes ago, we didn't have many updates on this situation, but they did say that the suspect that they had been looking for was possibly in this white cargo van because it matched the description of what they had been looking for throughout the entire morning.
Run this scenario by the possibility that the suspect was following the news updates and the alerts that law enforcement had put out that they were looking for a white cargo van and it was ditched here. That certainly is a possibility, and that this is where the vehicle was found, that it matched the description, the possibility that they had the license plate and connect the dots on that. But after 2+ hours, maybe 3 hours here on scene at this location, they maybe have not found anything inside in terms of a suspect. Jim McDonnell, that obviously is speculation, but everything has to be on the table. Sure. We can only see what we see.
And Jim, is that possibly why they are withholding some information?
Okay, new information. Hold on, Jim, there actually is a body. There is a body in the driver's seat of the van. We did not have a good we did not have good perspective on that earlier, and now we can see it. Of course, we're not going to zoom in, but I had eyes on it a moment ago, and there is a man who was in the driver's side slumped over of this van. Wow, what a development. Okay, speak to that.
Yeah, that makes sense, because if this was an abandoned van, they would have cleared it earlier, taken every precaution. But if there was no one in there, then the posture would have been different, and they would have continued doing the normal procedure for the investigation, the impound, and so forth. That didn't happen, and the reason for the delay was, as you now know, a suspect in the van and apparently deceased at the scene. And so when the press conference was held and Sheriff Luna mentioned that we don't want to jump to any conclusions. You have the van. It could be the right van and not the right suspect at the time. So there's a number of different options that you can't press a redo button if you don't get it right. So they want to slow things down. They want to take every precaution, but they also realize that when they have, in this case, the scene here again in Torrance, as well as Monterey Park and Alhambra, they have to exhaust all investigative methods to be able to capture what they can, because once you open it up, you no longer have the ability to go back and to be able to then complete the investigation. The scene has been compromised. And so they will take their time in moving through this investigation and follow up. And again, as we saw here with this white van, it was fairly clear, although you can't say that, it is speculation prior to now, that there was an individual in the van and that they were incapacitated. And that really dictated then what we were seeing on the scene, that you had the SWAT officers there, but not in a high state of readiness. It was very clear to them, probably from the beginning, that this individual had passed and was no longer a threat, and that dictated the rest that we saw here alive.
Yeah, they probably spotted him ahead of time and were taking their time to assess if there were any other threats possibly with this vehicle, maybe bomb explosives or anyone else inside the vehicle. That's why they were out there since about 11 o'clock this morning. But wow, what a development in this investigation. Not even a day after that crime happened overnight in Monterey Park.
Yeah, just 12 hours after the shooting that occurred at 10:20 last night, in which 10 individuals were killed, another 10 more that were wounded. And Jim McDonnell, when you have a situation like this, you lose the investigative possibility to try this individual, to gather more from them, to interview them. There are so many questions. It appears that in most situations, you'd want to keep that suspect alive to figure out what were they thinking, what was the motive, why, and was there anybody else involved?
No, absolutely. I mean, the sanctity of life drives what we do, and certainly if there was any indication that this individual was alive from the beginning, that they would have taken more urgent, assertive steps to be able to get the medical aid. It was obviously from their behavior clear that wasn't the case. But again, as going back to the press conference with Sheriff Luna, the number of moving parts in something like this, and he referred to the human side, the number of victims, all of the impact on all of their families, the number of people injured and scarred maybe for the rest of their life, their life has been changed, as well as all of their families. And then the community, the perception of safety in their small community for something like this to happen. And now become a focal point for the world media. Again, very sad, very tragic. For everybody involved, but certainly the people many people will live with a lot of pain for the rest of their life as a result of this incident last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Very heartbreaking. This is a traumatic situation for so many communities here. We do want to go out to our Eyewitness News reporter, Leticia Juarez, in Monterey Park at the Reunification Center, where families and friends of the victims there can get answers and ask questions to law enforcement. So, Letty, what can you tell us?
Well, for anyone that's been impacted, whether it be a family member or a victim or a witness who saw what occurred, they can come down here to the Langley Senior Center, which is located on the 400 block of West Emerson. We haven't seen too many people going in, just a couple people trickling in. Like right now, we do see some folks going in. They've been in probably about 3 others before them. Now we're seeing a couple more folks. They're just allowing them to come in here and seek help, whether it be for a mental health crisis, because obviously if they were a part of this or they had a family member that was injured, or maybe they don't know where that family member is, this is where they can come to get information. Now, this crisis center was set up by the mayor of Los Angeles office, Mayor Karen Bass, helping out the mayor here of Monterey Park by establishing this center here. The Department of Mental Health on scene with their advocates, and also with just people in the law enforcement community to help out. Again, we've been seeing a lot of food coming in as people from the community have been bringing them items. The Red Cross is also on scene to help with anything that might be needed by the victims. But again, anyone that may have been involved in this mass shooting, who maybe has a loved one that they cannot find or locate, maybe they're at a hospital, they might be one of the victims, the deceased victims, they can come to this center and try to find some answers. This center will be here throughout the duration. Right now, the mayor of Los Angeles helping out the mayor of Monterey Park as they conduct this mass shooting investigation. They're trying to just gather as much of the witnesses or the family members or the victims that they can to try and see what they can do to help them out right now. Because you can imagine this is just a really heartbreaking event happening to this community here in Monterey Park. I'm gonna throw it back to you guys in studio.
Absolutely. Leticia Juarez, we thank you for that update. We are now into our 1 p.m. hour here on Eyewitness News, both on air and online, streaming on our free ABC 7 Los Angeles app. I'm joined now by Eyewitness News anchor Michelle Fisher, joining us here on the desk. She was here last night when all of this was beginning to unfold, so much unclarity on what exactly was happening, and now kind of full circle with learning so much about the victims and now the apparent suspect in this white van. Michelle, just heartbreaking to see the impact, the broad impact of this event.
Yes, last night as all of this information was coming into us, sometimes I don't know that everyone understands immediately, especially the viewers. They want answers and they're wondering, how the process works in terms of getting information. And we certainly shared all we could last night. But yeah, to your point, to see this all unfold today and all the new information we're learning, and then to get that picture of a suspect, no name just yet, but and now for there to be a body discovered here in Torrance, it is kind of come full circle, but still a lot of unanswered questions this afternoon about a motive and who this individual is, his relation to the victims, if any at all, if it is some type of hate crime or if it was targeted. So yes, still a lot of unanswered questions that hopefully we get the answer to sometime soon. But certainly if the individual in this white vehicle here is the person responsible, that at least allows people in this community to kind of be at ease and then not have to worry about somebody still being out there with a weapon possibly who could, shoot and kill other people. So
absolutely. We spoke earlier with one of our law enforcement experts, Bruce Thomas, about the fact that more often than not, law enforcement does exactly what they did today. They find the suspect. They are very good at this, using all of their resources to gather the best information. Once again, that image on the ground of what has been occurring there in Torrance this morning, a secondary location where the suspect has been located, a man inside of that vehicle, dead. Joining us live as well, Rob Hayes at Monterey Park City Hall, where that news conference wrapped up minutes ago. Rob.
Yeah, so many questions still remain. That news conference wrapped up. The sheriff talked to us, and they were talking about the possible suspect or person inside that van before it was confirmed that someone was in that van. But we've seen that now that there was a body found inside that white van in Torrance. The big question is it our suspect? Is it the man that is connected to the shooting here in Monterey Park? We just don't know. Investigators earlier at the news conference were talking about how they had a name associated with the person seen in those photos that they released. It was an older gentleman, an Asian man who was wearing the ski cap. They have a name, but they aren't releasing it. They said that they were afraid that it was going to impede their investigation and that their main priority was to get this man off the street. But again, we just watched everything unfold there in Torrance. Is that the suspect? We don't know. The news conference ended before that went down, so now we're going to wait for the latest update. We don't know when that will be, but the last news conference was a couple hours before this one, so it might be a bit, or because there is a new development, maybe they'll all come back out and talk to us. But we will be here waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, Rob, it's so true what you said, just to kind of pull back the curtain, on, stopping short of the confirmation. You have the vehicle that matches the description. You have a man who's, dead in the driver's seat. All of it checks off. But until law enforcement at the very top, the sheriff says, this is our guy. we're good for now, no more threat, you almost just have to hold off still on the we believe phrasing here, because it all pieces together. But until they say it, we just, you never know. Along with the aspect of was he working alone in this crime? And, speaking to law enforcement, he answered that question during the news conference about how much information they've been able to release. And, they have updated us along the way. There's been little pieces of information that went out along the way. So certainly a developing situation that they are dealing with this morning. You may not have this information, but is there any indication that they're going to come back out and speak at your location, Monterey Park City Hall?
We haven't heard anything right now. The podium is empty, but they are all inside the Monterey Park City Hall, huddled about, I imagine, discussing the latest developments and what they're going to say next. But again, you were mentioning there are so many dots in this case, and it's tempting to connect them all. We're going to wait for the officials to actually connect all those dots.
Yeah, patience is the word that comes to mind. I know sometimes in these situations it can be difficult because we want answers as soon as possible, but patience and also trust that law enforcement is doing any and everything that they can to A, keep people safe, and B, find the suspect, which it seems they possibly did, and C, just to get those answers to us and get the accurate, correct information out to news agencies, and also we'll get that information to viewers. So patience and trust, which we're leaning into that right now.
Okay, this is really interesting. Rob Hayes, thank you. Stand by. On the left side of your screen, more movement from the SWAT team members on the ground behind that Bearcat with the LA County Sheriff's Department, that armored vehicle, a second white cargo van. Earlier, we were told of one. There was one that, of course, we have been watching, in which the suspect was found deceased. You got to wonder, were there ever reports of two being involved? Certainly, they're not taking any chances here, and they are moving towards a second vehicle that I believe is just across the way from the parking lot of where the first white van was located. This is a new development. Guns drawn there from the backside of the Bearcat. We're watching this with limited information, simply kind of witnessing it, and a real concern of there potentially being a second suspect. Why would the van be in the same area, and why would it be across the way?
Right. We see kind of billowing there some flags that say sail. So it makes me wonder, like, what is beyond this area? Is this an area where there maybe is a car lot or some type of, but that vehicle certainly with a dashboard there that seems to be a bit cluttered, seems like that belongs to someone. So yeah, interesting that there's not one but two white vans that we know they were looking for initially. One person in the one white van that's off screen right now, and then still waiting to see what's in the second vehicle here. But yeah, guns drawn from the SWAT team as they cautiously approach this vehicle that is just abandoned seemingly in this parking lot across the way from the other vehicle. They're making their approach now. Yeah.
They are moving in. This specific location is Lomita in Hawthorne, so it is a different intersection. These SWAT officers are moving in, appearing to go in from the rear. We are watching it here. Man, so incredibly tense. At a moment when you thought that their search was over, they move in again to another vehicle, almost as though they have some type of a lock device to get that rear door open. This vehicle, unlike the other, does have rear windows. The other van was a closed back with no windows. This van appears to have windows there on the top side, and the SWAT beginning here to open that door.
All right, they're taking a look inside.
Former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonnell still on the phone this morning. Wow, one development after another. What do you make of this secondary vehicle? The description is near identical. We had never heard that there was potentially a second white van that authorities were looking for. Offer your reaction if you can.
Yeah, no, it's a surprise. They approached this one, very carefully, without the same level of standoff as they had initially on the approach to the other one. So
Sure.
It leads me to believe that they're running down any possible leads or issues in the area that are of concern. And as we talked about before, you have one shot at a piece of evidence or potential evidence, and you want to be able to investigate that while you have it there. Because if somebody were to say after the fact that, hey, there was a similar van and it was parked right down the street, did you see it? Did you investigate it? In this case, they can say, yeah, we became aware of it, and we did what we needed to do to either tie it to the case or find out that it wasn't connected at all and be able to move forward.
Yeah, incredible work, and thank you for walking us through that potential approach on what SWAT was dealing with. Of course, some speculation, but it's fantastic insight. Speaking to Air 7 HD, if it's possible to give us perspective of this location to where the other van is located as the camera pans up. Okay, so it's a good distance away. Okay, so this is more than just across the street. It's almost around the corner and down the block. And that offers a good explanation for why they were telling people to clear the area. Earlier, when we were live with Sophie Flay, she was told by deputies in the area to move back, that they had to break down and move. And this maybe kind of speaks to that broader crime scene, the perimeter that is in that general area this morning of Torrance. Again, in the South Bay, far from the distance of the original shooting in Monterey Park. Former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonnell, we often talk about the duration of these the night as well.
Oh yeah, in all likelihood that'll go on into the night because the crime scene investigation, which is very thorough, will be done at the scene. The coroner will roll out, and the coroner will do their own separate and independent investigation at the scene, and then they remove the deceased and take them to the coroner's office, where an autopsy will be scheduled and then performed in the next couple of days, and then contribute to the investigation as to what happened, and it's all like a piece of a puzzle, and all these pieces fit together, but you don't want to be missing any pieces, which is why they find a van like this in the area. And we don't know if they had any additional information that it was there. It may have been spotted at the scene, and the vehicle was located. So they take whatever they can and run with it while they have the opportunity to be able to do that. And then ultimately in the days and weeks and months ahead, put together a comprehensive overview of what actually occurred last night and today.
All right, former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonnell on the phone with us. Fantastic insight. This is Mark Cotorobles alongside Michelle Fisher here, breaking into regular programming with so many updates regarding this mass shooting that has occurred here at home, the 5th mass shooting here in the U.S. this year and the largest since last year in Uvalde, Texas. 10 victims killed, another 10 wounded, taken to multiple area hospitals, including County USC Medical Center. A lot of information that we are still waiting to learn, and on standby potentially for another news conference from Monterey Park City Hall, where our Rob Hayes has been located. At that location, we've heard from Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna, bringing us the very best information possible. And again, should this be the suspect they were looking for, we had an image, a man in a beanie located at one of the locations overnight, but never had a name released. And you just hope that this is the guy, that there's not somebody else outstanding that they're looking for. That would, of course, increase the concern. Everything's on the table at this point. Until they say, we have everyone we're looking for, there still is going to be that kind of remaining concern, I think, for the broader community.
One of the things that Sheriff Luna said a bit earlier was they have been diligent to make sure any update that really needs to be out there, that they get it to the viewers as soon as possible. So it's safe to assume, as you just mentioned, that we will get an update from them sometime, hopefully soon. I think the last update was about an hour, 15 minutes ago at this point, about an hour and a half ago. But, you know, with the discovery of this deceased person inside of this white van in Torrance, that is certainly something that hopefully will be addressed soon in terms of who this individual possibly is, and if it is the person that they're looking for who was in that photo with the beanie on. Obviously, we were not able to see inside of the vehicle to even get a look.
I had a glance at the gentleman who was in the passenger seat who was deceased. Obviously, it was a brief glance. I can tell you he did not appear to be wearing a beanie. That may have come off in the hours after the shooting, but he was slumped over in the driver's seat. We had been overhead of the vehicle for multiple hours, 2 to 3 hours, and never had necessarily a good shot to indicate that he was sitting there, presumably.
Okay, well, I was going to mute it.
That you spoke to, heartbroken about what has occurred.
Well, a lot of focus of this investigation the last few hours has been in Torrance, but let's not forget the whole investigation centered here in Monterey Park. And we're going to show you a little bit about what that looks like in a minute. But I just want to show you how things have changed here throughout the day. We now the crowds have come and gone. A lot of community members, different people that were planning on experiencing and attending and celebrating in the Lunar New Year event that was scheduled to take place and takes place every year here in downtown Monterey Park. And as we pan back, I want to go in on that green awning because behind that shop is where the dance studio is located. And we know that since late last night, investigators have been centered on going in and out of that dance studio and, of course, the scene outside of it. And as we pan a little bit more to the left, we can show you where the command post has been set up. And we have seen investigators all day going back and forth through that alley. The entrance to the dance studio, again, is behind the building that is located on Garvey. We're at Garvey and Garfield, where we have been all morning. And as we pan around the other way, because I think it's easier for you to see, Mark, we've been talking about the community response. And as I mentioned, you know, people had heard about the shooting. They didn't know necessarily that the festival had been canceled. So we have encountered lots of people, maybe hard for us to pan around, but we'll go a little bit. You can see that is where the festival was set to take place. A pretty sad sight as the tents are now being completely taken down. All the vendors spent the morning clearing out. They told me they were really looking forward to this day. This is an event that they don't just come to because they have a cultural connection to it, but it's a lucrative event for them, and they rely on it each year to sell their merchandise. And that's just not something that was able to happen today because of this mass shooting. You're getting a live look right now on Garvey, which is in downtown Monterey Park. And so we do have people that live in this area. We also have people that were planning on attending the festival, and we also have people that are trying to find out more information about their family members. That's been one of the saddest parts about this, is that I know that you had Leticia Juarez on earlier, and she's at the Family Information Center, and we've had some people that have come here first. I've seen numerous family members crying, visibly upset, and then they move to that other location.
And much respect for the families, guys, but I do want to go ahead and stop this for just a minute so I can show a different video, which is the reason that there was a standoff. So give me just a moment here. I'm going to switch out screens. Make sure there's not an ad.
CNN national correspondent Camila Bernal is live on the scene for us this morning. Camila, we heard from law enforcement officials just about 10 to 15 minutes ago, and the main point that they were expressing was that they need help from the community because this suspect is still on the loose, and they don't have a description of him that they can publicize right now.
They do not, Boris. Good morning. And they say they will likely release more information in the coming hours. But as of now, all they're saying is that it was a man who was here last night at around 10:22 and began shooting. The sheriff's department describing it as people screaming and pouring out of this business. We know it was a ballroom. It was a dance club. I talked to witnesses here on the scene who told me this is a popular dance club. People regularly come here on the weekends. We also know that they were celebrating the Chinese Lunar New Year. And so as these celebrations were going on, these shots rang out. And as you guys mentioned, 10 people killed, 10 others have been injured. We know that those injured range from injuries that are still stable and also critical. So we still do not know if more people will die as a result of this shooting, but we are also, again, expecting more updates in the coming hours in terms of what happened and in terms of the conditions of the victims. Now, again, it is really important to point out that they do not have a person in custody. That person is on the run. During this press conference, we did ask, how did this person get away? And authorities not saying whether he ran away or whether he was able to get in a car and get out of this area. But we do know that they are looking for this person. The sheriff's department also saying that the FBI is involved in all of this. We asked many times whether this was targeted, whether they're looking into this as a hate crime. And the answer to that was, we are looking into everything. Nothing is off the table at the moment. Again, they are not giving us a motive. And so we will have to wait and see how this all develops as we get more information from authorities, but they are looking for a male suspect in all of this. We just do not have a description. We do not know what type of weapon he used. All of that likely coming in the next couple of hours as we continue to ask and press authorities for information.
So that was the footage from early this morning, last night, about the standoff that we were watching that I'm going to go back to now. It has since ended, but I'm kind of trying to wait to see if they're going to do another presser, because the first presser really didn't give us any kind of new information. It was just, hey, we have a standoff. So thanks for everybody for being here. Thank you, Wildcrime, for coming in.
USC. We appreciate your insight over the past several hours, along with all of those who have joined us, our reporters on the ground and our law enforcement expert, Bruce Thomas, providing that critical insight and information about this deadly mass shooting in the city of Monterey Park. It will be under investigation for days to come. Our coverage continuing throughout the day on air, abc7.com. We will be back this afternoon on air for Eyewitness News at 4. At 4. Okay, if you are streaming with us, our coverage now does continue. I was unclear if we would be continuing to stream online, and we are. This is an image on the ground from Torrance, the aftermath of a SWAT operation from this deadly mass shooting. There were multiple scenes playing out, one in the San Gabriel Valley, actually two in the San Gabriel Valley overnight, and this third location in Torrance. Mark Cotteropolis alongside Michelle Fisher on the news desk, giving you the very latest on this developing situation. The image on the left of your screen is the white van that was the center of so much attention for a few hours in this parking lot, the corner of Sepulveda and Hawthorne in the city of Torrance. Now gathering evidence where a male suspect has been located deceased on the driver's side of that vehicle. For some time, we had two Bearcats pinning in this vehicle. It's unclear if there was any type of pursuit, what led officers to this location, but in the hours leading up to this specific ordeal, we were told that a white van, a white cargo van, was the suspect vehicle, and this is where they found it. Certainly piecing together all aspects of this investigation this morning.
Yeah, that was one of the first pieces of information that came in, I believe, was about that van, which does allow people in the community to then call police. And not only that, but then police to be on the lookout for that vehicle as well. And as you mentioned, it was located with a deceased individual inside, still unclear if that is the suspect who was responsible for this mass shooting. But those questions will be answered at some point.
Things that we have not reported on because they have not been released is the suspect's name. Law enforcement said they had it. They were not releasing it. They also did tell us, however, that this was not an assault rifle for what it's worth that was used in the shooting. There was a weapon that was recovered by patrons at the second location last night in the city of Alhambra, a situation where this suspect allegedly walked into another dance hall facility and he was overcome by patrons who were able to disarm him. So at least one weapon in the custody of law enforcement. We've been told by LA County Sheriff Jim McDonald that that weapon was not an assault rifle. We have now one suspect deceased in the city of Torrance, 10 dead in Monterey Park. So clearly a lot to gather, a lot to go through in the hours and days ahead. We are going to step aside here with our streaming coverage here on the news desk. Our images will stay live as we continue covering this online, abc7.com. We thank you for being with us. Stay safe.
Looks like we might have lost the audio, guys. That's kind of strange. The news anchor may have took like a break because he's been going pretty rough, pretty hard for a couple hours now. So if you guys are just joining in, thank you for coming in. True Crime with Sunshine. This is the standoff. Well, it's the remnants of the standoff. Can't hear it, but you can hear me. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Why Crime. Of the murders at the dance studio last night. It must be their website. They just don't have any audio. So I'm going to say he took a break. Because like I said, he's been going pretty rough. And he thought they were going to end the streaming. But apparently they were like, nope, we're not coming back at 4. We're staying live. I said they did an earlier presser. If you guys back it up, run it on faster speed, you can catch the presser. The presser really didn't say anything, just that they'd released the photos and the poster and that they weren't releasing the name as of yet. They had the vehicle, the white van, barricaded in with Bearcats. They did run a Bearcat up the side of it, and you could tell from the chopper view that there was somebody in the front seat, but the anchor was actually very professional about it and didn't make a big deal about it. And then they did get an update that there was a body unalived in one way or another. It's not been released in the front seat of the van. And then there was a second van in an adjacent parking lot that they did go over and check out. And it didn't look like anything came out of that either. So they just kind of wrapped it up. And now you guys are seeing just like the aftermath of law enforcement still kind of gathered up and getting everything together. But I appreciate everybody coming in. I was actually out and about in town and saw that there was an update that they had a suspect's vehicle pinned. But you never know with these break-in cases like this. And they said before that they didn't know what brought it here, whether it was a high-speed chase or not. I hadn't seen anything about a high-speed chase, but I will update it in the comments on the video if I do find out the details. But I believe this is probably all we're going to get is the end of the standoff. I don't think I can share two things at once. Oh, it went off again. I don't know if that's their signal or mine. It's horrible though. Maybe we'll have sound this time.
To you, it may just be an elevator.
No ads. Wow, that's weird. I don't know what's going on with my internet. Very strange today. It's like stopping and then picking back up, and now it wants us to watch an ad. We're not going to watch that. We're not going to listen to it anyway. Okay, here we go.
Streaming coverage with updates on this breaking news we have been following all morning here on Eyewitness News. I'm Mark Cotarobles.
And I'm Irene Cruz. Earlier, we were following a mass shooting over in Monterey Park, and now we're getting word that this situation out of Torrance is possibly related to that shooting and possibly the suspect here at the scene. We're seeing a white cargo truck and a heavy police presence in this area.
And
Okay, so they ended it. They ended it. So while we are here in California, guys, I do want to share something else. I was actually trying this morning to make a video on this dude. And hey, I'm live. I apologize to anybody that's here listening. If you guys heard my background gamer here, I'll try to edit that out. This is the official poster for missing 5-year-old Kyle Doan. He is missing out of California. Guys, he's missing in the floodwaters, and this is a really, really sad story. And the only reason why I'm running this on the end of the mass shooting is because it is California, and I feel like if you're watching and you're in California and you are around where these floodwaters are, keep your eyes open because kids are resilient. But this is the video from his mother, and I really want to share this because this is like heartbreaking. And like I said, it's right there in the area. So I really, really, really want to share this with you guys. And I hope I wasn't muted that whole time, but we'll see.
There's been days where I don't know what I can do or how long I can last just because of the fact that he's gone.
First at 4:30, a relentless search continues for a young boy ripped away from his mother's arms. The 5-year-old was traveling with his mother when rising California floodwaters swept him away. Our Dylan Ancheta spoke with the boy's parents and learned they have ties to the islands. Dylan.
Yeah, Mark, Lindsay Doan is that young boy's mother. She was born and raised on Oahu, and her family moved to California in the late 90s, right before she started high school. She's since built a family there and is now dealing with one of the toughest weeks of her life as she hopes the search will turn up any sign of her son.
The tears have been coming in ways that I feel like I have no more tears at this point, just because of the fact that it's been a really long week.
It was Monday morning around 7:30 when Lindsay Doan and her 5-year-old son Kyle were heading to school in San Miguel, California. Severe weather rolled over the state, quickly turning roads into rivers.
When I hit the dip, I realized the water was too high, and my car started to drift to the left side.
As water filled their car, Lindsay tried to get her and her son out.
He was in the back seat with his in his booster seat, and he said, "Mommy, it's okay. Everything will be okay. Just be calm." So he was trying to calm me down just because of the fact that he knew that it was an emergency.
But the currents were too strong, and Kyle was swept away. Bystanders heard her screams and tried to help. They were able to save Lindsay, but Kyle was out of reach.
And then when they pulled me up, I was telling them, my baby, I don't know where he is. I have no idea where he went. And I keep telling everyone if I could change places with him, I would. I totally would, because I don't want to think that my child suffered going down the river.
Over the last week, upwards of 200 rescuers and volunteers combed the area for any sign of the child ahead of another round of severe weather.
We've been very overwhelmed and humbled by a lot of support. The people that have been wanting to go out and search the river, the county sheriffs, the SLO County.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. It really is. And this is a little 5-year-old dude out of California. So I just kind of wanted to share his story on the end of this other California story, just to get his name out there. And like I said, if you're in the area, and keep your eyes open, watch for this little guy, because kids are resilient. And I'd like to hope that, maybe he's still out there, but it's pretty graphic and heartbreaking. And the mom's she's pretty upset about it. But I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you so much for coming in, and I will update any press conference that comes up later tonight about the suspect once they identify and we get a for sure that was the suspect that unalived 10 people and then injured at least 10 more that we know of. It's a sad world that we live in. Sad world that we live in, but what can we do? Again, thanks again, everybody. Have a great day. And remember, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share out this video. It really helps my channel a lot. And be safe out there. Remember, if you see something, say something. It takes a village to raise a child, and never give up.